Hey, welcome back to Printing's Alive, the podcast where we talk everything print. Today, we have a really good panel here, guest list, special guests. We got Steve Falk and we got Jules Van Sant. Steve from the Canadian Scholarship Trust and Jules from the Print Graphics Foundation. Did I get it right?
Print and Graphics
Close.
Scholarship Foundation. Yep, close enough.
Left out the end.
Close enough.
Extra word. So today we are going to talk about young people in print. How do we get young people in print? Why do we need young people in print? Well, that's easy because we are getting old in print. Lots of old people, not us on the call, but all the others we're talking about. And it's a problem, and it doesn't matter actually if you're in Canada, if you're in the US, or if you're in Europe. So we're going to talk, and hopefully people will learn from it. Most importantly, for the print owners that are listening, I really hope you're doing your share and donating to your local print scholarship. Whatever you do donate, it helps. I want you to think about all the mistakes you make in a year and give a percentage of that back. That's doing it the right way. Okay. Well, no, I mean, you're smiling, but I'm being serious. Most of the people don't even know the mistakes going on in their shop because someone's cutting a stack of paper the wrong way and getting tossed in the garbage, and they're taking more paper. So we're not here to talk about mistakes. We're here to talk about the young people. So Jules, why don't you tell us a little bit first about the foundation and what you do with it? And then Steve, we'll move on to you.
Awesome. So the Print and Graphics Scholarship Foundation has been around since 1956. It serves the United States, so we can't give scholarships to Canadian students, which is a bummer because we also engage with them on other things. But we've been around. We have about 130 endowments right now that we manage. A lot of those are personal gifts that have been given over the decades. They might be organizations that had scholarship funds that they can no longer administer those. So we help administer those. We invest them. We help find students that fit the criteria of how they would like to see that money used. So over the years, we have grown. We give about $550,000 to $600,000 a year in scholarships to students that are going to 2-year, 4-year, or maybe a trade / part-time student. We've done that now for the last 3 years because we see the value in supporting those students that want to go back and get more education. Maybe they work already and they need some support. As an industry, we need to show them that we believe in them and that we see the future and that they can be the future. So we do that. The other thing that we do at the Scholarship Foundation is that we started about 3 years ago giving grants. So we give about $100,000 in grants every year to universities, trade schools, high schools who are teaching, whether they need equipment, whether they are taking students to events, to certain training, maybe they bring in some specialist. So we are very excited, and we had over 55 applications for grants this year.
Great.
And so we're giving $100,000 this year to those educators, showing them that we believe in what they're doing. Right. So as an industry, we're getting behind them. And so one of the other things I just want to bring up really fast is that we at PGSF are also, aside from the advocacy we do, the career guide that we're redeveloping right now, the directory of schools. So anyone out there in a region is like, who's teaching graphic communications in high school at a trade school? We have a directory. And we continue to grow it. So we invite people to come in and take a look at it, contribute to it. You know, a program, we don't have it. Let's add it. The more as a community we work together, the better all ships will rise, right? And we attract those people. But the other thing that we're doing right now is the PGSF is helping to administer the Graphic Communications Education Association. So last year we met with them. They're a 100-year organization, international, and they were struggling. And because we've invested in infrastructure and technology to take us into that next decade, 2 decades, 5 decades from now, we're able to take them on and help them grow. And again, show that the industry believes in them. And we're seeing new instructors come into programs that were almost going away. We want to show them that as a community, they can network, they can share best practices, they can work together with vendors and with local printing and packaging companies to really help elevate their students to bring them into that next generation. So I'm a board member. I was chair for 4 years. I'm currently vice chair. I also handle PR and marketing for them. And I do a lot of volunteering with them, right? I spend a lot of my time making sure that we're up front because that next generation is job one for me. So,
Absolutely. Hey, once you get into this industry, it's not so easy to get out,
nope, it's not. It's been good to
right?
me. It's been good to my family. So,
Oh, that's great. Who's got the funny farm there? Are those your animals?
yes, those are
Cool.
mine.
Love it. Love it.
That's a guard, guys.
Squirrel.
Sorry.
Yeah. Great. Steve, how about you?
Well, I had a career in printing. It sort of went through book publishing and third-party logistics and direct mail, and I owned a bunch of high-speed inkjet printers for producing direct mail, and through that, became embedded and loved the print industry. I literally 14-year-old sweeping the Scholastic book warehouse, smelling the dust of paper and glue, and seeing the little books and going, man, I didn't know it was going to be my life, but here So, as we have a nice group, the Canadian Print Scholarships, who's been working for decades, and they asked me if I'd like to take on the executive director role. I've been in it less than a year, and but I've known about the organization, supported it, and the organization gives out about 85 scholarships a year in Canada to students in the graphics communication business. We connect with those students. We try to put them in contact with events that are happening around their schools. We try to bring them out to events where they might meet prospective employers. We try to show off the brilliant youth that are getting these scholarships to the employers so they can kind of wake up and go, oh, that's a place I should be looking for help, and we do our best to kind of promote the industry through, we have the usual social media that related to work. So it's pretty strong LinkedIn presence, email to our constituents who are donors and past recipients, and the schools administrators, etc. So it's kind of like a communications hub about what's happening with young people and how the print industry is adjusting and where that all fits together. We try to think of ourselves as a little bit of a hub for that. So for young people coming into the industry, they can feel comfortable and good about it, and we feel great about being able to connect them up with people in the sector.
Cool. Love it. Love it. Love it. So I've already said why it's crucial, so we don't have to say that again, or remind everyone how old the industry is, and we need to give our youth an opportunity. And that means that some people should retire sooner than later. So you open up the space for a youth. Just do that little plug. Question, and I guess you could both answer it, but how do young people today perceive the printing industry? And are there misconceptions that you regularly need to address?
I'll let you go, Jules. Take it away.
Okay. So I speak a lot at the university level, high schools, and I think it's just the best kept secret, quite frankly. A lot of the print industry just isn't a known entity. You look around and everything is printed. Going to a grocery store, M&Ms are printed. I mean, kids don't think about that. We don't talk about it. It used to be that print was the medium, right? Before the age of the internet, we had newspapers, we had banners, we had direct mail, and that's how people got their information. They wrote letters, and now the world has changed, and that noun printing is just it's not something people wrap their head around. Once you start to illustrate it, they're like, oh yeah, but they just have no they just have no concept. So I've heard in the past, oh, people don't like it because it's dirty or it's, I don't hear that. I just hear that they have no idea. So that's why it's important that we as organizations, we host a student day at Printing United Alliance or at the trade show to be able to take those students around, to give them information, let them network and show them that the industry cares, that they're not just walking around being shoo-shooed, that they're actually engaged and that they learn what print really is. So,
Yeah, I think what I see in Canada is a lot of times because you asked the question was sort of misconceptions, right? Like some ideas of so young people come out of or in high school thinking, well, I'd like to get some education that ideally would lead me to a job, but I also like to do some of the things that I like or that I'm good at in school. And a lot of times what they associate that with is like they're good at design or graphic design, or they're a creative kind of person, and that they can see the link to the print industry through that. So they're kind of like creative folks who get in there, and then they're a little bit amazed at how technical and operational it is. Like, it really it doesn't exist unless you have creatives at the front end of it. But that's like the pointy top, right, of everything else that happens. So I think that's sometimes a misconception. It takes a bit for I think students get into it before they realize that sometimes, but they stick with it, and then I think sometimes what we find is we give scholarships to the top students, right? So these are top performing kids, right, who have great marks. They participate in all kinds of extracurricular things, and then they get in. I'm not sure that they've been high performing in clubs and running the student union and all kinds. They get to the print industry ground level, and it feels like a little bit of a slow burn for them because they've been like so active for years, for maybe like 5 years before, like. So I think that's sometimes some of the misconceptions. So they would like it to be a bit more rock and roll. And they didn't understand that most of the industry is operational, manufacturing, finance, building relationships with customers and sales and all that kind of stuff. They just don't get it. I think we've got to do a better job at telling them about that, because especially from the sales and relationship side, which is sort of where I come from, it's just a great industry.
So when I got involved in print, and I knew nothing about print before I got into print back in the day,
most people.
And I'm a sales guy. And what I liked about print was every single person you meet in the world has a need for print in some way or another, whether they want to acknowledge it or not, right? Every business, basic stationery, even though that's the stuff that's disappeared, but packaging, signage is out of control. I used to deal with some families where they would spend $6,000 on 400 invitations for a wedding, right? The husband would go nuts because he wouldn't spend that much money on print at the office, but he would then do the invitations for his kid and, make the wife happy. But there was always something. The other thing was that I don't think people realize that without our industry, there is no other industry.
Right.
Without print, you can't work in drugs, pharmaceutical, right? Could be a marijuana grow up too these days, but packaging, pharmaceutical, food, everything has an instruction, signage, buildings, emergency exits, construction code. It's touching us in every way. And if you wake up in the morning and you look at your books on your table and you just start your day, then you're in the bathroom in the packaging, and then you're in the kitchen. You haven't even left the house and you've already had 90 minutes of bombardment by printing. And if you like your comics or you like any magazine, that's what's out there. So I think we as an industry do a really shitty job of promoting our industry. I don't know if you guys have it in the States, but Steve, we used to have the Dairy Association put on commercials on TV to remind you to drink milk. Who needs to be taught to drink milk, right? I mean, I thought once that we as an industry should have our own commercials, but our industry is so cheap, they wouldn't make the commercial, right? One thing, so I'll just tell you one thing that I used to do is we had a vocational school in Montreal called Rosemount College, and once or twice a year, I would have, I was friendly with the person that worked there, but I would have the class come to my shop. And we'd break them down into 3 groups, and I'd have a couple of people, including myself, and give them complete tours of the whole facility, like right down from pre-press, walking on the plank of the press while it's running so that they could feel the vibration, showing them a white paper going out and coming out full-blown color and, some embellishments, varnishes or whatnot. When you do that and they get to touch and feel, then they start looking around them after and realizing everything. And then at the end, I would give them all a portfolio with all the information that they have to have on the company and tell them to go back and when they're done to call me. But I would also say to them, hey, if any of your parents buy print, maybe you want to give them the portfolio and they can reach out to me. Always selling, right? But what do you see happening around both your areas? Are printers bringing in people and doing tours? How are schools operating? Like, what's the word today?
I do think networking is really important. Career days. I used to run a trade association for the print industry in the Northwest that covered 7 states. I partnered with a lot of printers in different places to bring in students, get them into a shop, get them to the community college where they might have a congruent program or things that would be a gateway into print, right? And start to show them kind of that track. There are efforts being done, but it's still pretty fragmented and fractured, and it's always been frustrating to me because people want to work where when they look at who they're working with, it feels like them. And to your point of people not retiring, we're expecting to have young people come in who are digital natives, who have a very different way of consuming information and exporting that information. And we're asking people who could be 3 times their age to engage them in a cube. And most of these students don't want to do that, or, the ones in the back, there's just a communication challenge, or they don't look like them. So they don't see that pathway for themselves. Now, they don't have somebody 10 years older, they have somebody 40 years older. So it's really important that employers have people that look more like the ones they want to hire, and then get engaged at the high school level, get engaged at the community college trade school level, engage at the college level, okay? But then be ready to pay them. Because that is the other problem, is that we get a lot of scholarships to a lot of fantastic students, like Steve said, high achieving, ready to rock and roll. They're put in a cube and they're not paid what they could get paid in a bunch of other industries. So we have a little bit of a problem that way too. So how do we make that up? By making it feel more like a place that they want to land.
Oh, I agree. Just on the pay thing, I'm always amazed because everyone will pay when the person says they're leaving, right? To keep them because they put in this time and they put in. But listen, the other thing is, salespeople, owners, you hire a salesperson and anyone who comes in and says that they're bringing a book of business is lying anyways, because customers don't follow salespeople. But anytime you bring a salesperson into your company, it's 12 to 18 months before they're really hitting the mark and moving. And most owners at 6 and 7 months start to get antsy because they don't see something, and then they chop them before they're just about to hit their stride. And it's really it amazes me. Today, people don't work for free. In the old days in print, if you were in sales, it was draw against commission or straight commission. And there's still people who want to operate that way. And if you're an old person owning a print company thinking that way, then just don't offer to hire anyone, because you're just insulting yourself and them, right? By doing that. What do you see going on around here on our side?
Well, our biggest. So back to your Rosemont Technology still exists. We just started sponsoring scholarships there. Ruben
Cool.
Acevedo. I don't know if you know Ruben Acevedo, but he's been there for a while. And the closest, I think, printing place is PDI. It's not too far away. So we're trying to hook
Yeah,
up
and Jamie
to it.
runs a wicked operation. Like, I
Yeah, so
mean,
we're trying to
I
make
love it.
sure
I'd
that
work for
they
him if I was
understand
going
that they
back.
can work back and forth, and that makes us feel great that we've done a job where we can go in and like start with a scholarship, talk to the team at the school, go, hey, just down the street is Jamie, PDI, and they'll go, yeah, we know about him. We've done some stuff. It's like, well, let's cook it up a little bit. Let's make sure that more things happen. Are you having an open house? We want to get photographs of you and Jamie's team and our recipients and put it online. Like it's building in, a kind of community of print success with young people, right? And that's what we try to build. We're lucky to have, I think we're lucky to have social media and stuff these days. We don't have to wait for like the 2-month next issue of Canadian Printer to come out, to be able to promote it. We can kind of do it instantaneously, and we can share video and all those things that you try to do to try and encourage this, to give the impression of to a young person who's in school that there's industry out there that want to talk to you, that want to show you what's going on and bring you in. You're right. Jules, you were right about the age thing, and I'm like, I feel like one of the things I want to do is go around and give HR lessons to so many printers, because of lost opportunities where, young people are coming in the door and they're treating them just like they treated their employees in the 80s, and it's such a different vibe now. So, I mean, I'm not an HR expert, but I can certainly see what works and hasn't worked for companies over the years. And I hear from students who feel like, I got engaged at a company and they set me up with a mentor, kind of. Looks like there's a path. There's some young people in the cubicles around me, so we go out for lunch together, like whatever. And then there's other ones that don't do so well with when they land young people in their places. But to your point about like what's happening, as far as I'm pretty happy with in Toronto. Now the good thing about Toronto is there's a lot of printing density right in Toronto, but TMU, I think we give nearly half of our scholarships to it's a big school, right? I think they have 350 kids in graphic communication management, maybe 400. They have a careers day, and I think about 40 or 50 printers show up at that career day. They just set up little tables, and the printer puts his name there, and people sign up for an interview, and they talk to kids. The vibe this year, I heard, was that people were talking but not hiring. There's a lot of like hesitation. So some people walked away from that feeling. When I see people, students walked away from that feeling a little like, wow, this is a tough year. And I think it is, the economy and everything else that's going on. It's a different year to graduate, especially, that was happening in mid-February or whatever, those career days, right? They were not days when people were holding their breath. But lots of printers out and lots of them engaging and talking. And I think that's a positive thing. Although I'm always surprised at which ones don't. And then also which ones don't show up at other centers, like why they wouldn't be, there's a print center in Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Alberta, and BC that all and printers aren't, and their HR departments aren't knocking down the door to go into those schools in the way that I thought they should.
Yeah, when we talk about young people, I'm a little amazed. I mean, I've always stayed close to my kids in the sense of hearing what they're talking about, where they're going, and what they're doing. But there's a lot of print owners out there who have kids that if they would just sit and talk to them or bring them in and ask them some questions and accept what they're telling them instead of saying, as long as you live under my roof, you'll do it my way. And that was always a good line when we were younger. They would find out a little bit more about what they have to do and how they have to say it. I had one gentleman say to me, I can't keep young people. What do you think I should do? And I said, stop talking to them, because you go in and you welcome them and you talk to them and you hear them, but you don't go back to them. You let other people do it. But if you're going to go and be the first words, then you got the first relationship in. And, if you're the owner, mentor them a little, take them a little, give them a little bit more space, invite them to a lunch, ask them anything, ask them to come sit, walk around, maybe pair them up so that they have a shadow, or they're a shadow to somebody for a little while. When you said not hiring, they're not sure. Again, our industry is really, yes, we have a tight industry. Yes, a lot of companies, low margin, but we don't have the option of hiring when we need that person. I learned the hard way that you got to be smart. And if a right person comes along, you got to take the chance, make that investment, and bring them in, because never mind print, in life, nothing ever goes the way you want it to go, when you want it to go.
I'll share this little tip because you reminded me of it when this. But when I was starting to get some young people coming in, what I would do is I'd set the schedule up of onboarding stuff. But one of the things I thought they really enjoyed is I set them up for lunch with other people in the industry. Right?
Love it.
So it's for 2 months, once every 2 weeks. So I'd call up, hey, Bob, would you have lunch with this 25-year-old graduate? They're just starting with us. Just meet them.
They want community.
Oh, sure, Steve. Whatever. I'm buying lunch. It's okay. But this, and it worked out really well because I met all kinds of people in different kind of a graphic designer, a print owner, whatever. Canada Post person, whatever.
Yeah, you take them to a supplier. You could let salespeople grab them, and not every day, but take them to visit a client. Let the client see that you're investing in hiring young people and you're bringing them to meet them so that they can understand what goes on. So you got a win-win, right? Because the customer is now thrilled that you're making an effort, right? With young people. The person you're bringing is thrilled because you're taking them somewhere, and it's not in the building. It's out of the building. And then there's just more engagement, because otherwise, if you just put somebody in a place and all they're doing is working in a silo and there's not anyone around, that's not so good either anymore. Right?
Well,
There's another thing I think we need to do that we don't do, is we don't promote our technology at all. Okay. Multi-million-dollar presses are like a video game now. Bunch of buttons, screens at the front of the press. The folders have 200 presets for fold. Ink is all in the pre-press. If you're learning all that technology, there's no more playing with the ink trays. And we've advanced 180 degrees from where we were. And sometimes you hear people say dirty, printing is or was a dirty industry. If your parents were in print and they worked in a plant, you would come home with construction ink under your fingernails that you couldn't get out so easily. People are dressed in white suits now in some companies in Germany working in the press rooms, right? Inks are coming in canisters. You show people, I said it before, how you make it and what you make it. Take them to the process. I spoke at Ryerson a bunch of years ago to a graduating class, and oh my God, there was nothing more exciting than talking to them and getting all that young energy. And then the questions they ask. I mean, at our stage, people don't ask many questions. They barely talk. So we need some of those young people. Tell me about a person who each of you may have did the scholarship for that really turned out successful and grateful for what they're doing.
Oh yeah, we at PGSF, we have a few board members actually who are in their 30s, who have been scholarship recipients. No
way.
Oh yeah, we are.
Cool. Yes, I love that.
Oh yeah, our board is completely.
I want to talk to them.
Well, and they would love to talk to you. They are, and they're in the industry working one's at a book manufacturer, one's at a large commercial shop. Another one is an entrepreneur and supporting the industry. Another one works for an OEM. I mean, and so all of these different people, younger people, are they see the value. And so they help us to make sure that we're presenting forward to the next generation for them. Because it's really important. The buyers that you were just talking about also want to look at your company and say, do you feel like me? Am I going to look at you and say, yeah, you've invested in technology because you have the right people in there running it, in there selling it. And oftentimes, if you don't take people to lunch, if you don't take some of those new hires out, they're as good as the sales rep. or an email, and it's not as sticky. So it also helps drive demand to bring in those younger people and get them in front of those clients. So for us as a foundation, it was really important to me when I was helping to usher and re-nurture this board to make sure it looked like who we're serving, not the ones who have been in the industry for 40 years. So,
No, exactly. It's
Yeah.
and by the way, the buyers are becoming younger as
yes,
well.
yes.
And the buyers don't, not all, but a good part, don't have the same knowledge of print,
Mm-mm.
right? So you almost want to bring younger people in so that they could have the conversation and relate, and maybe they'll talk about other stuff and then get back to print.
Yeah.
But they'll be with their own peers. I've spoken with salespeople where I've gone to check out their LinkedIn and it's not even filled in, right?
Mhm.
Like a salesperson's been with the company, it's not filled in. And I'd say to them, well, number one, after COVID, you should be filling it in because at COVID, we all learned about LinkedIn and the benefits. And I said, I asked him, I said, more importantly, I said, what do you do when you find a customer? He goes, what do you mean? I said, well, you go check out their LinkedIn page, you go check out the website, you try to figure out who it is that you're going to deal with, and if you want to deal with them, and if you've given you the right impression, image of what they do. I said, well, when your potential customer goes to your LinkedIn, they think you're a nobody because you got no experience. You haven't posted anything. Your email's not there and your phone number's not there. You're making them chase you. Guy's
Yeah.
like, well, I don't think it works like that. I said, buddy, you just told me what you do with your customers. Right?
Yeah, it is funny the different. I mean, there's still people who are lagging on that social media side of LinkedIn, but they certainly.
But that's where the young people could help.
You're going to be customer relationship building, and not just young people. I mean, lots of people are spending a few minutes every day on LinkedIn, seeing what's going on, and the minute they see somebody's name on an email list or a podcast, or they're just checking them on LinkedIn to see, like, who is this person? What's their credentials? You're right on it.
One up with the younger people that you could do, you bring them in and you ask, you could ask them, hey, if you guys could post on our social media or your own about the company, that's what they do great.
Yeah.
You don't have to pay an agency to do it for you. You could have a little group in your company because you don't need that much stuff for your TikTok and whatnot. And that's like just a side hustle for them because you're engaging with them and you're asking them to help you promote your brand. So again, you're giving them room and freedom to move.
Yeah.
Right. And opportunity.
Difficult.
Back to your point about, sorry, Jules, go ahead.
Though. Oh, go ahead.
I was just
Come on, let's fight. Somebody go.
They to your point about the buyers. We did a survey. We went and looked at the LinkedIn profiles of everybody we gave scholarships to for 10 years from our biggest school. So we went and we were able to track down more than 60% of the students. They all have LinkedIn profiles. So then we are they working in the industry? Which we found a decent percentage were. I can't remember the exact number, but let's call it 10 years later, there's 25% of them are still in the print industry, but some of them are buyers. So they don't show up at Joe's Printing and Paper. They show up at the TD Bank, Canada's biggest bank or whatever, and they're buying print. They're in the design and print. So,
love it.
What a contributor or a donor to a print scholarship would say, well, they're not working for me. Well, they are kind of working for you because they're buying your stuff from the, so if you're creating in the print industry, graphic communication business, good buyers, that's cool too, right? Because you don't just need people to work your presses, work your sales team and marketing. You need buyers in the end.
We need creative people and agencies. We need buyers,
print
right?
And understand it and have, write good specs and can understand they should come for a tour of your plant because you have some new technology that will help them change the way they're doing things and do it better. So I just bring it up. I think some of what the scholarships are doing are feeding the buyer side, which we kind of forget, right? Because we keep thinking we want them working in our plant.
You want anybody who loves print anywhere near you, on any side of you, right? we need to bring the people in and educate them because we need them to understand print. So even if they're not in print, wherever they are, they could talk about it with their teams, with their companies. They might be able to educate other people Like we're creating little educators, right? They'll go out and they'll educate other people in the company as to why we in the world of print, we think we know it all, right? And we don't really know anything because everything's just kind of changing all the time. And I mean, when my kids used to come into the shop, they were blown away because no one ever, I'm just looking around what I have here, which is probably not much, but when you go get something and it's printed, packaging or your cosmetics or the foiling or even my Don Julio comes in a box that I spend more time looking at the box than holding the bottle because it's really cool. And oh my God, the best thing ever when you talk about educating. So I always talk about print at home. I'm always talking embellishments. I'm talking whatever. And you never think your kids are listening to you, right? And then one day my daughter's with her husband at the pharmacy and I have it on my YouTube and they're going in the food section or they're buying, I don't know, whatever they're buying food. And my daughter just takes out the phone. She makes a video and says, my dad always talks about embellishment and I just picked up this packaging with these embellishments. I don't even know if it's good, but it sure looks good with the embellishments and we're mini whisperers. And she posted it. And I was like, if nothing ever made me smile, they killed me because it was so great. And it just made me think, you know what? They do listen to us.
They do. We need to use our voice, right? I speak to a lot of classes. Like I said, I chair the Cal Poly Advisory Board for Graphic Communications. So I get to engage with professionals and students, career days, all of that. And they need to see our passion. They need to see that we believe in this industry for them to go, yeah, I think I'd like to be in that. For them to ask their friends, consider this as a career path, right? Talk to their younger siblings, go back to their schools and talk about it. This is a viral thing. Social media is being social. Sometimes, I think COVID taught us that we need each other. And so this is a time for us to be viral, just like your daughter. And shout it from the rooftops. I think it's great.
Oh, it's all. I listen, when I go in, I don't know wine that well, but when I go in, I pick my wine based on the label.
Oh,
right?
Some of the best label printers are right near wine country in Ontario. They have,
exactly.
They have 15 different embellishments, since that's the word of the day, all lined up on that web, and they just depending if you want gold, silver, embossed this, and raised that, punched this,
and sorry, we know all that embellishment stuff works, right? Like when people are going in, the statistics that show you when people see something or pick it up or touch it. Look at all the kid trading cards, like the Pokemon stuff, all out of control. They all relate. Here, I mean, I have a deck of cards, all embossed, everything done, and I mean, Grateful Dead, but even they're doing fancy cards and effects. So I think it's a whole new world out there. And for the stuff that we've come out with lately, it's right up their alley doing some of the stuff. The digital, the direct mail, right? It's perfect. The kids love computers.
Printed apparel. All of those things bring to mind what the technology can do, no matter the medium. And it's a huge thing. And you don't need to print more than one. You can print 10,000, you can do 100,000, but you only have to do one to begin with. So just making accessibility is, again, it's kind of a gateway. Oh, I can do one off of my design. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, hey, I could start to print my own. It's pretty exciting. I think it's such an entrepreneurial industry. And I think that by giving scholarships, by doing career days, by networking, we show them that we believe in the future, and it gets them a little riled up, and maybe they'll start doing a little bit on their own. It's pretty exciting.
If nobody shows anybody anything, where's anybody going and what's anybody going to do? We all are where we are because somebody took us, somebody showed us, and it could be the work thing, could be my fishing thing, could be music, could be everybody's introducing somebody. Listen, when we brought into the world, we don't know anything. Think about it. Every single thing, somebody's showing us.
Mm-hmm.
So exactly. we have to continue. I would like for every owner to commit to bringing in one student for 2 weeks or 4 weeks a year and pay them because they have all these stages and all these things you can go in and do and not pay. But you always pay someone when they come in if you want to make them feel respected. Don't take advantage of them, but have them come in, have them ride by a couple people in the shop doing different things. Ask them when they come in what they like, if they have any interest. Some people like playing with machines and parts. Others, I never got dirty in my entire print career, just because I didn't like the back. Lots of paper cuts though. But if you ask them, you're in another better position, right?
Yeah.
Some don't even know what they like until they've done it.
Yes.
It's not
You know?
everyone's gig, but when we brought in students, because there was in York Region, north of Toronto, there was a good co-op program in some of the schools. So you would get these kids knocking on the door, hey, can I do 3 months? Maybe it was even 6 months. You got to know them over. So one of the things I would do is, by the way, you're going to take notes and you're going to do stuff, but what you're going to do is produce a video for us about working here. And so
That's
at
smart.
the end,
Love
sort
it.
of, or 3/4 of the way through, they were like, hi, I'm, so-and-so. I'm here at such and such printing in ink. I didn't know anything about it when I came. I'm going to walk you through the plant or like whatever the thing was. And we got some really kind of like, high school quality, fun videos. And I track some of these kids, and they're like super achievers now, right? They're just like doing great, but it's some of them have, I don't think any of them have stayed in the print industry. That was their high school co-op, but we used that, the video. It was good for staff morale because they could see some young person like working here. And then it was good for like promotion and stuff because we'd put it on our website, we'd put it on our LinkedIn and stuff. Here's somebody who spent 6 months here and it didn't kill him.
Listen, I think companies could ask some of the youngins in the company to do some scripted videos for the company to promote the company and their offering or the hiring of people, right? And that's a great way to show other young people that there's already young people in, rather than meeting the guy with gray hair. By the way, I wish I had gray hair as opposed to no hair. But I think there's so many little ways that you can use them. And then again, if you do that, I think the young people you're asking to do that, you're making them feel important. We all know a job is not just about the money, although it's very important these days, especially thanks to the tariffs and your president. Okay, I won't go politics in the podcast, but no, but it's important to let the kids do what they have to do and feel empowered, right? Because I think today kids want to be more empowered than we did as kids.
Yeah,
I don't even think we knew what the word empowered meant back then.
Yeah, no, they want
right?
they want to be able to here's what you need to get done. Here's the end game. Here's the tools, and then let them do it, right? But also be engaged and show them. I think it's really important that you make them feel welcome. And one other thing I wanted to say is when you talked about high school, trade schools, career days, also get your younger people to take samples and go to the high school, go to the trade school. I've done that. Look at visual communication programs, look at graphic communications, graphic design. Get them excited about that screen becoming something else and how it intersects with photography, how it intersects with UX, UI, how it intersects with fabric and signage and Pokemon cards. I mean, they don't know what they don't know. But if you can get the educators to get excited, then you're really starting to create community. Sorry about my dogs.
Yeah.
That's okay. Dogs are dogs, right? It's so let me ask you a question because you speak with the teachers. Are the teachers that are teaching our kids about print and industry excited? Or are they like some of the teachers that I had where I wanted to jump out the window and drop out of school?
Most of them are excited. I think
good.
so, especially the younger ones. We have some graduates that were PGSF scholarships that are now teaching at Ferris State and down at Wisconsin Stout. So in the US, right? These are women in their 30s who went to school, worked in the industry, are now instructors. we need to show them we're supporting them, and they need to be able to go to their department chairs, to be able to go to their universities and schools and say, I need this equipment. I need this software. I need this kind of support so that I can show the students pathways. So it kind of, there's a lot of part of the circular economy that, us as an industry needs to make sure that we're plugging into and supporting. But it's different. The ones I've worked with, the ones at Cal Poly, for example, they love print. They do. They teach other things because the students aren't all in on that.
Right.
But they love the print part, and they're very passionate about teaching them.
Cool. And I mean, we mentioned before, like the one-ups. I mean, the youngins are buying Nike online and designing their own shoes, right? T-shirts and whatnot. So some of them, if not half of them, are probably already doing stuff without even knowing it, right? They're all pretty computer savvy, like turning their fingers, doing shortcuts and all that other stuff, where I'm still doing one finger at a time. But I think we have to give them a little bit more credit in general than we give them.
100%.
Oh, I just think, so just youth in general. So, if people are in the industry wondering what's going on with the youth these days, that we meet just the best. Oh my goodness, they just shock you how engaged they are. They're ready to take on the world. Smart people, great marks, all kinds of extracurricular stuff. They do sports, they do this and that. I mean, you get those people into your business, keep them interested and engaged, I think good things will happen.
And actually saying that, I just thought of something else. Aside from the young people, for the owners listening, most important is the culture of your company. If you do not have a good culture, if you do not have a place that is, I'll say, fun and not so stressful and demanding, and I mean, we're all deadline driven, but you don't have to say it every day, then you're not going to find people. Because people today are looking for a place where they could feel comfortable. No one stays for 30 years like our grandparents did, or maybe some of us. But you have to do that. I mean, we used to have disco bowling every so often, and we even went to play paintball once. And actually, I was the only guy dressed in orange, and I was the moving target. But if it was going to keep 65 people happy, I was ready to take a few hits for the team, right? Like, where else do you get to shoot at your boss?
I think that it's really important. Culture is so important. I've talked to a couple of graduates, and they're like, yeah, as long as the culture is really good, I can put up with the building that feels 30 years old. So that's another thing. If you're spending all this money on technology and you're advanced, and yet it looks like you haven't done anything to your offices in 25 years, that doesn't really sell the message that you're advanced technology in print production and quality. And so I invite employers to also consider what they look like from the outside in for that next gen.
Listen, most do large format. If you don't do large format, you know someone who does.
Yes,
have a designer help you out and graphic your walls. I mean, I remember we had one wall 70 feet long in a hallway. I had a friend going to Africa, a photographer friend, and I said, do me a favor. I need a picture that's going to go on this wall.
70 feet long.
And 70 feet. And he took a picture, however he did it, sliced it together, wide angle, the whole thing. I had giraffes and elephants and a whole African safari that when you walk down the hall, you can't do anything but look and notice and go, oh, or wow, and it changes it. And that we were doing it before people were doing it today. And then when customers would come in, right, it was giving them ideas. And the truth is, we're always selling. So I went from putting it on my wall to convincing people coming in that they could add brightness and energy to their office if they would put some, themes up and graphics on the wall.
But I think what I've seen is people use timelines. So if you're really wanting to tell your history story, which is wonderful, multi-generational, how you've advanced, use that 70-foot wall, show it with graphics, tell your story to where you are now, instead of it feeling like I have awards from 20 years ago from the Craftsman Club on my walls still, which I've seen plenty of shops that did that. Be proud.
It's making you cry, isn't it? Because we know it exists out there. And
Oh,
It
I was
does.
just at a printer. I was just at a printer in their showroom or their boardroom. They had catalogs on the shelf from 2019. Not one, but 4. And I looked at them and I'm like, are you kidding me? Does anyone come through here? I said, like, you need to have something that's updated, right? And it's like, I said, put somebody in charge of it. Put a young person in charge.
Yeah, just
Give them the
remember.
opportunity to make it the way they want to see it,
Yeah.
right? I've been into places where in smaller shops where they still have half the box of envelopes piled up one by one by the side press because nobody's going to throw out the envelope that they can never use again because it's dry and whatnot. There's so many things out there that I think, there's so many opportunities for these kids. It's wow. So before we head out, and I will say this, I do want to get on with students, graduates, teachers from both your places. I would even offer up, if anybody wanted me, I'd be happy to go to any of the schools and do a session and talk and or promote what we do. So that's on the table.
Perfect.
Yep.
So before we head out, final remarks on anything you want to say.
You want to go first, Steve?
Okay, somebody go first.
Well, I'll just say if there's Canadian printing companies watching this and they aren't engaged with us or a local organization that's supporting youth coming into the industry, they should take the opportunity, because this is the future of your company. It's there are people studying this stuff in most of the provinces of Canada. So get engaged, take the next step, pick up the phone and pick up the email and connect with one of these organizations and take advantage of this resource, these young people who are ready to change your company and build it for the future.
And if you don't call Steve, I'm calling you. So I think you're better off calling Steve.
I love it.
Jules?
Yeah, so we had over 1,000 applications for this scholarship season, and
Wow.
we'll probably impact with our renewals probably 170 students, because it costs so much to go to school, right? So we want to make sure they have enough. So my call to action is, we've invested in a lot of technology ourselves so that we can reach those high schools, those trade schools, help to create more feeder for that, maybe aside from the scholarship work we do. But also, the more that we can help with donations, with monies that are sitting there. They can't give scholarships. They don't get enough applications. They're doing it very rudimentary and analog. We have made it so that this is a very slick system. We can reach more and more students. We can get more and more community built. And I invite anybody who feels as though this is important to talk to us. And we're just here to elevate the industry. There isn't any other skin in the game other to make every individual company, which makes our industry better. And we're pretty bullish on the future. So I invite people to donate, to get involved, help us, help them.
Love it. I just had a genius idea. Okay. We get together a bunch of students and the ones that are good, and we work with them, and we have them call the owners on behalf of the foundation or the scholarship trust and tell them why we're calling. I want to hear an owner refuse some kid who's calling to ask for money for printing school.
We sent them around with thank you notes at the latest print show, handwritten thank you notes. So students who received they'd go to the Fuji booth. Hey, can I talk to Bob? Well, Bob's not here. Well, here, listen, we just wanted to thank everyone at the booth. They are good ambassadors. The young people are good ambassadors.
Yep.
The other thing is when owners, before you respond to some of these kids, think about what you would be telling your kid if your kid came home and said they just spoke to a guy who blew them off, right?
Yeah.
They're good at what they do. And just imagine that if your kid came home and said, hey, Dad, Jack over at this printing company just told me I'm blah, 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 blah. Because I'm sure the advice that the father will give the child is not exactly the same that he would say when he was sitting on the other side. So I just always like to look at both sides and to think.
That's not a bad idea. We might take up that idea because there's certainly lots of prospective donors and supporters.
I'll come to the training.
Excellent.
Wow. So first of all, I thank both of you. I will say so far of all the podcasts I've done on Printing Alive, this might rank up there as one of the most important because it is about the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Without the kids, we're not going to have a future in this industry, period. So I ask all owners, if you're listening, do your part. Don't make me call you unless you want me to say hi. Guys, girls, we're going to get some other people to come on, and let's keep this regular so that we remind people all the time about the youth and that we need people. And wow, super exciting. I thank you. Thank you.
Really
Connect
appreciate this opportunity.
LinkedIn. Make sure you become part of it. Learn more, for sure.
When I post this on LinkedIn, I will put both of your
hashtag or whatever there.
No, I'm gonna tag you both so they can connect. People connect right with you. Yep. Owners connect. Reach out, kids connect, reach out, and then they can go direct. So to everybody who's listening, and I know you all made it to the end of this podcast, being that it's so important, we all thank you for taking the time to listen. If anybody has any ideas about any topics, feel free to call me. If you have something you want to say that you want to be on with me, my pleasure. Other than that, I'm just going to say goodbye. Warren Werbit. I love print and love you guys too. So thanks for joining.
Love print too.